Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where we dive into discussions about precious metals, industrial metals, and the stocks that revolve around our world of scrapping and recycling. It is great to be here again this week on another very warm Northeast Florida day. Welcome, Scrapping Irish, first to the party today. E-Waste Mike, Roger at CU Scrapping, and JR Cat. It is great to see y'all in today. I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun in today's discussion. We've got on tap today, we're going to be talking about silver, and we're going to be talking about aluminum. And then we are going to go back and look at some tool stocks that we talked about before and see how they compare to a very well-known company that was also reviewed this week, but it's one that I think is a really good investment. All right, so without any further ado, let's dive right into our precious metal discussion for the day. So today we're talking about silver. We can see that spot price is 23.36 US dollars per ounce right now. Let's get rid of this advertisement. You all know that I like to use the APMEX website to look at these prices. APMEX does not sponsor this live stream in any way, shape, or form. It's just a company that I have used in the past to buy and sell my silver, along with Kitco, that I also look at. There's plenty of them out there. Those are the two that I am most familiar with and that I would have no trouble at all recommending to anyone. Hey, Big Country, great to see you, man. All right, so what we can see going on here with the silver price was for the 24-hour, it was, kind of flat. And then all of a sudden, we come up here to 23.40-ish, 23 and some change. We were down here at 23. So we had a nice little pickup here. Nothing to get too terribly excited about, but it's always good when it goes up. If we look at what that looks like on the 3-day, come over here, do that. So if we look at what that looks like on the 3-day, we can see that that plateau was pretty well established most of the 3-day period before it jumped up here to what we're looking at right now. That could be a good trend, right? Nice to have that trend going on. Let's see here what we're looking at for the week. All right, lots of ups and downs here going on in the week. Man, we're up here and we're dropping, and then we got this plateau going on. Then so here we had this nice plateau going on here. Then we dropped down to the plateau that we were just looking at before we jump back up to where we're at right now. So yeah, it's kind of a rough week, going up and down, kind of what you expect to see happen with silver. Again, nothing major, no major moves here. These are all in the $23 range, so just not a whole lot of big movement in here. If we look at the month, we were up earlier, but then we came down here into this period that we're looking at in here. So yeah, I guess the overall trend is kind of down then for the month. And then for the 3-month, yeah, we're still, it's almost like we have this kind of plateau and this kind of plateau and this kind of plateau. They all are trending in the wrong direction as far as we're concerned. So yeah, silver is going into the buy territory. This is all within the prices that I would normally buy at if I was going to be buying some physical silver. So definitely in the range to consider buying physical silver. And if we look at the 3-day, I want to show this real quick here. Silver compared to the gold to silver ratio. And what I want to point out here is that if you look at the gold to silver ratio, we had this drop. Both of these are on the 3-day scale. So you got this drop and then it plateaus. And then you can see what happened with silver. We had this plateau, and then it went up, and then we had the plateau. So this is a real good example of looking at the gold to silver ratio and being able to see how when the silver prices move around, we see the gold to silver ratio move around as well. So just something an interesting and very clear example for us on that one. All right, so who's out there buying? I'm just not in a buying position right now. I'm using all my available reserves for the business right now. So I am not out there buying, but I'd like to know if anybody is out there buying during this market. Scrap it all. Welcome to the game. Scrapping on the fly 77. Great to have you here. Yeah, let me check on the aluminum price thing. Well, we're going to talk about aluminum in a minute, so we'll call it up. I may have a decimal point off or something like that. We'll see. We will see. So, yep. Oh, here we go. Over here. That's the right button. So yeah, I'm just curious who might be out there doing any buying during the as silver is down in the low 20s. Certainly not a good opportunity to sell unless you really have to. So Big Country says he buys to invest in his retirement. Yep, it's a good hedge against inflation. It's a good thing to do, and it's important when you are looking about your investment portfolio, how you're going to diversify your investment, because you don't want to be all in on one thing, have that go south on you and your retirement is ruined. So it's really important to have a good diversified portfolio for your investment funds. And I firmly believe that physical gold and silver should be part of that investment portfolio. What percentage it makes up is very dependent on you, your risk tolerance, how old you are, how many years you're planning on working, those kind of considerations. And I'm certainly not at all the kind of person that can help you make those plans, because I am not a certified financial planner or retirement counselor or any of those kind of things that require some legalese to be able to legally advise people. But I do encourage you to talk to counselors, advisors that are properly certified. You don't always have to do what they tell you to do, but it's always good to get that opinion from the people that spend their life thinking about these kind of things. All right, JR Cat says he just bought 40% halves for $78. Okay, yeah, very cool, very cool. I never did the junk silver or the percentage silvers. When I buy my physical gold or silver, I just go right in with rounds and bars. Usually some mix of 1, 5, and 10 ounce rounds and bars, because in my view, those are the kind of things that I will be able to liquidate relatively easy down the road at any number of places. Now, I suppose the same could be said for your junk silver, your percentage silver, as long as you have a place that recognizes, those coins are worth a certain amount of silver to then liquidate them. Because a critical element of your retirement and how you're going to use these as investment is how you're going to sell them at some point down the road. And that's always the hardest thing to decide, right? Is when you're going to sell. You build up this stack, and then it's like, I don't want to sell this stuff. So, hang on to it for as long as you can. But again, have that as part of your plan. Know what you want to do with that money, with that investment as you go forward. Let's see. JR Cat also got 100 Rosie dimes at $1.70 each. Very cool. Hey, our friend E-Waste Mike just picked up a whole bunch of coins. So it'll be interesting to see how Mike does with all those coins that he picked up. Okay, so our safety note for the day, and I recognize that for some of you, what I'm about to say might be a little contentious. We're going to talk about comfort and convenience versus injuries. So the other day I'm at the scrapyard and I'm unloading stuff, and I look over and there's this guy, and he's in shorts with flip flops. If you're Hawaiian, slippers, no shirt, no gloves, and he's pulling these big chunks of steel stuff out of his pickup truck. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is not the place to be dressed like that. All right. The employees are wearing hard hats and steel toed boots and long trousers for them. I think they all wear long trousers. They'll have short sleeves on. I always have steel toed boots on, long trousers. I do go short sleeve, because you need to be able to cool somewhat. And you don't always have to have the long sleeves on. So, I was just thinking, man, yeah, okay, great. You're comfortable. You're not going to be very comfortable when one of those, when that washing machine or that dryer smashes down on your foot and breaks your toe, or maybe something worse, right? It's just, yeah, man, I tell you what, I see that stuff and I'm like, oh man, what are you people thinking, right? And then, I'm in the shark cage, and I mean, it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the shark cage every day this week. And I had the fans going, I got the air moving, and, it would have been really, it would have been more comfortable to have sneakers and shorts on. But, given how torn up my work trousers are, the rips and the tears and things, I'm just like, man, that would have been my legs if it wasn't for wearing some heavier duty work trousers. And I've got my work trousers are these, I think it's Duluth fire hose, is what they're called. And they're tough. I mean, they are really tough. Now they're heavy and I sweat a lot when I'm wearing them, but I tell you, they have taken some abuse that my body has not had to take. And the same goes with gloves and eye protection, right? Because anybody that's worn eye protection in a hot, humid environment, or even in a really cold environment, because you have the opposite effect, right? In the cold environment, your body heat can fog up your eye protection. That sometimes it's not as comfortable and sometimes it's not as convenient, but you really need to protect your body against the dangers of the stuff that we're moving around, right? It becomes an issue here in Florida when it gets really, really hot, because now you're challenged with mitigating the potential of heat-related injuries, overheating your body, not being able to cool off, versus the safety of physical injuries to your body. And of course, the way you do that by staying hydrated, by taking breaks where you can cool down a little bit, those kind of common sense things to mitigate the heat. So I would encourage everybody to keep that balance in mind. The one that is really going to, I'm sure, get a lot of people's attention is the safety guards on your power tools. I know there's a lot of you out there right now that as soon as I say this, you're going to drop a comment. Your safety covers on your grinders, your guards on your grinders. How many of you, come on, be honest, have taken the guards off your grinders? And then every freaking time that grinder blade breaks, you got stuff flying all over the place. And you don't know when one of those chunks is going to enter your body or not. So it's there's a reason why those tools are designed with guards. Okay. So if you'll notice in all of my videos, my grinders all have their guards in place, and these newer tools, they've done a really good job thinking through that, right? My DeWalt grinders, I can move the guards around so that, depending upon whether you hold it left-handed or right-handed or what approach you need to make, you can have that guard be, not as in the way as it might otherwise be. Now, look, I get it. Those guards can sometimes be inconvenient for when you're working on something. And I understand that frustration. How am I going to get the guards in the way? I got to get this angle, those kind of things. Leave the guard on and figure out how to do it with the guard in place. Otherwise, you risk serious injury. And I would like for you all to, continue to be a part of what we're sharing here. And it gets really hard to type when, you're missing a digit somewhere. Although I know some of you probably just do this anyway, right? So yeah, please, I get it. The safety versus the convenience and comfort factor. It's a huge one. It's always an issue, but please think safety first. And yeah, that means that you might be a little bit uncomfortable and it may not be quite as convenient to get done what you're trying to get done. This was a good comment here Scrap It All made, and I got to admit, I'm not as good with this as I should be. Breathing in copper dust is also dangerous. Metal dust, yeah. And I got to admit, that's one of those things where no matter how much I try, I keep forgetting to put on my freaking dust mask when I'm cutting things. I will admit to being bad at putting a dust mask on when I'm cutting things. Now, if I'm going to be doing a cutting session where I have a bunch of stuff lined up to cut, and I know I'm going to be at it for a while, I think because I'm consciously staging everything for that kind of an operation, I immediately say, okay, put the dust mask on, put the face shield on, get the glove, so I'm thinking about it. Where I mess up, and I'm just fessing up here, where I screw up the most is I'm scrapping something out and I'm like, oh man, I need to make a quick cut here. I'll go put the face shield on and then I'll hit it with the grinder. And then I'll say, daggone it, I should have put my dust mask on. So yeah, it's an important one because that stuff, yeah, it's not good for you. Now, fortunately, our bodies are relatively good at, if you don't have constant exposure to that, our lungs, for most of us that have good healthy lungs, we're pretty good about being able to deal with that, and cough it out and let it work its way out and stuff like that. But for people that only have one lung, like somebody here, and for people that have, say, COPD, or you've been a heavy smoker or those kind of things, maybe you have compromised lungs, you don't want to be constantly exposing your lungs to that nastiness. Oh, wow. That would make me nervous too. Man, no kidding. Because all you got to do is like curl your finger the wrong way. You're grinding and you got your hand on the guard, but you maybe slip a little bit over and now your finger's gotten right in there. Ooh, yeah. Oh man, that would be ugly. Yeah, that would make me nervous too, man. That would make me very nervous. Scrap it. I think we do it all the time, but you're talking about safety as a great reminder. Yeah, well, that's why I do this, right? I'm using the same approach that we used to use in the Navy, and that was constantly reminding ourselves about safety and even repeating the same things on a regular basis, because we're humans and we forget things, or we get careless, or we get complacent. And so constantly talking about safety is just an important way to stay safe. So no kidding. Boy, howdy. I would have been looking for those nubs too. That's just, yeah. Oh man, that would have been, that would have been ugh. All right. So safety, comfort. Let's just think about it here over the week as you're using your stuff, and keep it in mind during the week. Roger says, years of breathing in construction dust. I now get MRIs every 6 months, checking on nodules. Oh man, yeah, I can understand that. Good luck. Hopefully nothing ever comes of it, man. Hopefully that just is a non-issue for you. When I was in the Navy, because I was in the engineering department on a couple of tours, we were put into an asbestos monitoring program. So I have a long history of chest x-rays to track any potential development, because older ships had a lot of asbestos in them. So that was a big part of the Navy's program for monitoring us when we were in those environments. And it helps out now, right? When I go in for my checkups, my doc can look at that, compare it to current x-rays, and be comfortable that there's nothing bad going on. So yeah, so good so far. Good, Roger. Hang in there, man. Hang in there. Hopefully that's not going to become an issue. Okay, so it is time now to move on to the next step and dive into aluminum, as my European friends like to say. And let's see, I'm looking at the 24-hour aluminum spot price. And I mean, unless I'm really, oh, you know what? I know what I did. I know exactly what I did. Here, let's fix this. Let's go do this. Turn that off. I'm going to do this. I know what I did. I typed in, I did a bad typo. I'm glad you all saw that. So there we go. I hadn't even paid attention when I saw the comments. When I saw the comments earlier about the aluminum price, I was like, I don't understand. I took it right off of the Kitco website. So I'm not sure what the issue was. But then I realized when I looked at the banner and I looked at that I had done a bad typo. So sorry about that. Oh, man. So, yeah. So anyway, all right. So aluminum, 0.9501 a pound right now. That's our spot price. It looks like it kind of came up a little bit here, but this is just the 24-hour spot price. If we look at the 30-day, this is really the story that is of concern for us, because just as we talked about the last time we were talking about aluminum, we see that the peaks are still going down and the troughs are still going down. So yeah, the highs get lower and the lows get lower. It's just not a good sign for us in the scrapping world. So, and then we had this weird spike. And I want to talk about this here in just a minute. What's this weird spike in aluminum? But what we can see for the 60-day aluminum spot price, generally speaking, it's overall down. And if we look at the 6 month, we can see that it is still overall down. And when we look at the 1 year, we see, yeah, it's been going down. I mean, this is, here we are, just things aren't good, right? And we're lower now than we were a year ago. So just not what we want to see, right? Just, in the business, right? We don't want to see that. And this is look at the 5 year here, right? We are, if we go from where we are right now and go over, we're right about where we were 5 years ago. So aluminum going down. Now, why? Let's go over here and we look at the warehouse levels, and we see warehouse levels for the 30-day London Metal Exchange, warehouse levels going down, came up a little bit, but then started back down again. And you would think to yourself, well, wait a minute, if the warehouse levels are going down, the prices ought to be going up. Well, yeah, except if you look at the bigger picture, here's the 60-day London Metal Exchange. and warehouse levels are dropping and then coming back up. You're like, wait, is there an upward trend going on here, or what's going? You kind of start to see it. You look at the 6 month, and it becomes much more telling, because now you can see that the overall trend of the warehouse levels is up. And if we look at the 1 year, it's very clear that the London Metal Exchange warehouse levels are trending up. There's the troughs connecting. Here's the peaks. Now, this is actually a nice sign for us. When the peaks are relatively flat, the troughs are going up, it means that they're sort of, kind of pinching into a level that they need to try to break through. It's like the warehouse levels get to a certain point, and then they get drawn down, and then they get back up to a certain point, they're drawn down again. So if we look at the 5 year, here's the thing that is really going on. For the first part of our 5 year period here, the inventories were generally climbing, right? Then we had we come out of COVID, they use up a whole bunch of aluminum, and now they're starting to build it back up again. So all that means for us is that as the warehouse levels increase, the prices are going to continue to decrease. And, we're just going to have to continue to roll with that for a while. We know that the people, right? We know that industry experts have been talking about how aluminum is so important to the green energy future, the electrification, because it's a lighter, tough metal. So we're going to see it used more and more in cars and such. But it's not as important, perhaps. Maybe that's an inaccurate statement, but copper really gets all the attention in the electrified future. But aluminum is still going to be very important. And so I think that eventually we will see aluminum prices recover somewhat. Now, the issue is that aluminum is a very, very prevalent material. It's not easy to refine aluminum, but there's plenty of plants out there. The technology is well known. It's just a matter of cost to put those plants in line. Recycled aluminum is also a very big component out there. I've read that aluminum cans, anywhere from 95 to 99% of the aluminum cans that are out there are recycled. So, we see a lot of that going on, which, it helps to keep the prices somewhat depressed. Homer's Reluctant Odyssey, welcome. Great to see you here. Scorpion Metals, great to see you here. Glad that you made it. Let's we'll go back here and we'll ask ourselves, what should we be doing with aluminum? Oh, and I wanted to talk about this spike. When I was doing my research during the week, one of the things that came out was that the London Metal Exchange had dropped their daily price limits from 15% to 12%. Now, what does that mean? What is that saying to us? Well, it's these kind of spikes. And if we look at the longer term here, if you look at the 5 year, you see these spikes that are going on. Well, nobody likes to see those kind of spikes. They really mess things up from a buying and selling and the industrial perspective, and it can create some challenges. So what the London Metal Exchange is trying to do is to limit the amount of that kind of gyration that goes on. And sometimes the way they do it, they set these limits, and if it bangs against these limits, then they'll stop trading and let the market settle out a little bit before they open things back up for trading. So it's their attempt to keep these spikes from creating havoc in the market, in the industry. So I thought it was interesting that they made that change for aluminum. It means that aluminum pricing was becoming a bit a bit too erratic for them, and they were trying to get the fenders in place a little bit more on the buying and selling of aluminum. So just just some interesting stuff. The other thing that I saw was that aluminum and bauxite and the related materials have been added to the EU strategic raw materials list. So that's another sign that industry experts recognize the importance of aluminum, and we're going to continue to see aluminum as a big part of what's going on. Prices may not be great, but there's still going to be a good market for us to buy and sell. Well, in our case, sell our aluminum. All right, so let's see. What kind of comments did we generate when it came to aluminum? Let's see. Board Sword. Hello. Unfortunately, aluminum doesn't have much of an effect on e-scrap pricing. Yeah, very good, Chris. Very good comment. Aluminum's kind of out there on its own, right? I mean, the literally the weightiest aluminum item I can think of in e-scrap is the heat sinks that we pull off and put in with our extruded aluminum. In the case of my yard, they buy it as extruded aluminum. So yeah, it's good that aluminum doesn't have a lot of impact on our e-waste world. So, and let's see, what else do we got going on? Any other comments relative to aluminum here? Let's see. Trying to figure out, let's see. Okay, so, hey, Chris, Board Sword, there's a question for you. Are flat packs the same as IC chips? So I'll let you weigh in on that. Now, the other thing that I think is important for folks to consider when you ask those kind of questions is, are you talking about the way they're bought or what they are exactly? So there's, sometimes you can have things that are technically not the same, but from a scrap value perspective, they're essentially the same. So we'll see what Chris comes back with if he sees the comment while we're still going here. And we got Scrap It All wants me to make a video talking more about flat packs. I tell you what, I'll make a note here, and we'll see what we can put together. All right, I made the note. Okay. All right, so it is time to move along to our business note of the week. And I actually have two business notes of the week. So for those of you that are currently in the business, you have a business registered with your state, your county, your city as a business, you probably need to submit your quarterly taxes. Those may be sales and use tax. Those may be your sales tax. It may be your reemployment tax. It all depends on what state you're in. But if you are doing any sort of quarterly taxes, you may need to get that together if you haven't already. So look for your quarterly taxes. Don't let it creep up on you. The last thing you want is to pay extra money because you missed the filing deadline and got hit with one of those stupid late fees. Let's see, Board Sword, Scrap It All. Some are, some aren't. If it has legs and no metal top, then yes, IC. Otherwise, it can be a BGA, no gold, no go tab. Yeah, Chris, let's get together and talk about what we can do for some sort of video to help folks wrap their heads around all that. I think it'd be an interesting subject. Okay, GCR, welcome to the show. Great to have you here today. All right. So that was the first part, your taxes, right? So don't forget your business taxes if you're paying any sort of quarterly taxes. The other business note that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of more on the fun side of things. Taxes are never fun, right? So the other thing I want to talk about is advertising to get more business. I have found some of my best clients through old-fashioned snail mail advertising. What I would do is I would go on Google and I would I would either type in IT companies, IT repair companies. I would check the area around me, something within a reasonable driving distance. I would get the names of some of those companies that just seemed to me like they would be dealing with a bunch of e-waste. And I would send them a hard copy letter on letterhead, introducing myself, just one page, introducing myself, letting them know that I'm in the business, that I'm a certified recycler. In Florida, secondary metal recycler is the term that everybody understands, that I'm insured and that I would like to do their business, and I can offer to either buy their material or use donations towards an appropriate nonprofit if that's their desire. I can do regular pickups from them, and I would like to talk with them more in the future. It's funny, but it is so easy these days for people to ignore an email or a Google ad or the electronic kind of advertisements that are supposed to make it much easier for everybody to advertise. I think because people get inundated with so many of these emails and electronic advertisements getting in the way of them doing business, that they just immediately hit delete, or they block it, or it goes to the spam folder. But a hard copy letter, especially something that's one page, 12 or 14 font, so it's real easy to read, doesn't take up a lot of time, and gets right to the point, is, I believe, becoming actually much more viable as a way to get folks' attention. Now, it means that you need to do targeted mailings. You're not going to mail out 5,000 of those things. But if you mail out a couple a month, maybe 5 a month, maybe 1 a week, then you can get the attention of people that could use your business that you might not otherwise get. One of my best clients, this is how I got them. And the best part is that once I got that client, they then recommended me to 3 other people now who I'm doing business with. And it was all just an old-fashioned snail mail letter that I sent to them. So don't discount those old snail mail letters when you want to try to get the intention of people to do the business for you. And Chris has pointed out your county or township may have free opportunities for recyclers in their annual newsletters. Yep, that's another good thing to look at, is or your community that you're a part of might have a newsletter that goes out as well. Take a look at that. Targeted advertisements that really speak to what they might be. I found that to be much more successful than just the blanket shotgunning out to everybody. Okay, so hopefully those 2 business notes will help you out as the week goes on here, and we're going to get on to our next exciting part of this week's session, and that is the stock market report. It's time to dive into our stock market report. Now, some of you may recall we talked about these 2 tool companies a while back. They have now been refreshed. This is the Value Line Investment Survey. This is the newsletter that I get that gives me this data. They do not accept advertising, so all of this information is straight data. an unbiased analysis of the data. What I really like about this is because they don't take any advertising, they're not trying to appease anybody, make anybody look better or worse. It's just, yeah, here's what we think is going on. Here's the down and dirty data, and then what we think that data is telling us. They don't always get it right, of course, but they do a much better job than any of the places that otherwise accept advertising. So the first company that we are going to talk about today, we talked about them last time. So Snap-on. I know that some of you love them, some of you hate them, some of them love to hate them. It's funny. I was at my motorcycle shop doing a pickup this last week, and the Snap-on truck rolled up, and it's like they're all, the mechanics are like, oh God, I owe this guy money, but oh man, I wonder what new tools he's brought me. So I get it. And then and there's a couple folks out there that are competing with Snap-on. But I look at Snap-on, in this case, I'm looking at them purely as a business to consider investing in. Now, we can see right away some concerns here. So right now, Snap-on is only paying 2.4%. This is as of the 7th of July. So this is pretty recent data. And that's on $278 a share. So holy bajoli, man. That is some kind of expensive investment, for at least as far as I'm concerned. That's an expensive investment. So yeah, man. They're not qualified for cash flow per share or earnings per share. But one thing I do want to point out, if you look back 17 years and you see that they only had 2 occasions when they took a downturn, and we can all identify what these 2 were, right? 08, 09, that was the crash that was induced by the housing market, right? So there you got the crash going on there. A lot of companies took hits there. And what they did with the dividend was stay flat. So they didn't reduce their dividend. They just stayed flat, and that's okay. That's acceptable for our analysis. And then we see the COVID hit here, where they went down in their cash flow per share and their earnings per share. They still raised the dividend even when they were taking that hit from COVID. So they're what we call a Div 1, meaning they had this one flat year out of the last 17 years. Otherwise, they have increased their dividends per share for the last 17 years. So that is what we're looking for. And if we look at this graphically, that's actually that's a nice curve to look at, right? It's generally going up for both cash flow and earnings per share, and the dividends, actually are kind of have a little upward turn. So it's not even just a straight line, but it's a little bit nice upward curve there. So Snap-on tools. Now, for me, and again, I want to emphasize, I am not a financial counselor. I'm not a licensed financial counselor, investment advisor, stockbroker, any of those kind of things. This is just the methodology that I use when I'm looking at companies that I'm going to invest in to diversify my long-term retirement portfolio. I'm a dividend investor. So this 2.4% really doesn't get me excited. Yeah, it's 2.4% on $278, so it's a big number, but it's still that number doesn't excite me all that much. All right, so we go over to our next tool company, and that is one that, again, we are all familiar with, Stanley Black & Decker. Now, Stanley Black & Decker is a little more of my interest because they're at 3.6%. And what I really want to see is something 4% or better. Now, they have been over 4% in the past. So, that's good. And that's on $89, which is not a bad price of entry. I know it's going to be a little bit of a stretch for some people, but it's much better than the $278 of Snap-on. We know Stanley Black & Decker. They're all over the world. And some people, again, love them. Some people hate them. Some people love to hate them. But it's a name that we all know. And from an investment perspective, there are some things to really like about Stanley Black & Decker. Look at this. They are a Div 0, so that means that they have had 17 years of increasing dividends per share. It's actually been a bit longer than that for the last 17 years. No flat years in there. So, that makes them an interesting company to consider as part of your portfolio. Cash flow per share and earnings per share, yeah, they're not doing too good. 6 down years for cash flow per share, 5 down years in their earnings per share. So, and if we look at this graphically, we see that, yeah, that's a bit uglier than Snap-on was. Snap-on had this little burble here, but then it was generally up. Stanley Black & Decker took some real hits here. This is post-COVID, so it kind of makes you kind of scratch your head, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about this. Kind of a little nervous about this one. But hey, that happens, right? And we can look here and see what was going on. So according to the analysts at the Value Line Investment Survey, they say that Stanley Black & Decker is laser focused on transforming itself into a leaner, meaner company. They kicked off a series of initiatives to generate cost savings by resizing the organization, pairing their inventory with the ultimate objective of driving long-term growth and improving profitability, which would be really nice given what we're seeing right there in the charts. And then they reduced their inventory by about $200 million. It's on track to deliver $750 million to $1 billion of inventory reductions in 2023 to help support free cash flow generation. And cash flow generation is what we would like to hear as dividend investors, because that means they've got the money to increase their dividends, or at least keep their dividends going. So definitely definitely worth paying attention to there. So investors seeking a short-term play would do well to look elsewhere for the time being based on recent price and earnings momentum. Stanley Black & Decker is currently pegged to lag the broader market. However, at the recent quotation, more patient accounts may wish to consider taking a position here. The stock has jumped about 17% in value since early April review. Still, the equity now offers above average capital appreciation potential through the coming 3 to 5 years, and the alluring dividend only sweetens the pot. So, of the two tool companies, Stanley Black & Decker may be your better investment opportunity or to consider, but also analyzed in this week's edition of the Value Line Investment Survey was diversified companies, water utilities. By the way, Stanley Black & Decker, Snap-on, they're all included in the machinery industry. That you get it. You know where they would be. Excuse me. But they also analyzed diversified companies, water utility, brokers and exchanges, investment banking, and e-commerce industry. And what I like about this is that allows us to take a look at one of my favorites, and I think a lot of people really love this company because there's just so much to like about them, and that is 3M. Minnesota Mineral Mining Company, right? They started out making sanding discs out of the grit from the mines, and as I have read about the history and studied the history of 3M, it's just a really cool company. They require their people to spend a certain amount of time in new ideas, research and development. They put a certain amount of their money towards research and development on a regular basis. That's why they're always coming up with, just really cool things, right? And they're called a diversified company because, they're all over the place with all the different things that they do. They are a diversified manufacturer and technology company with operations in more than 70 countries. Among the leading manufacturers in many of the markets it serves, the conglomerate operates 4 business segments: safety and industrial, transportation and electronics, healthcare, and consumer. Listen to this: research and development, 1.9 billion, or 5.4% of their 2022 sales. Think about that. That's a bucket load of money that they're spending on R&D, and that's why they keep coming up with new ideas and really cool products. That's also why when we look at them from an investment perspective, we see that they are a Div 0. So that means 17 years of increasing dividends per share. And it's actually been a lot longer than that. I mean, it goes way back. So they have always tried to look after their investors by keeping that dividend up. And right now that dividend is at 6%. So that is definitely something to consider. And at $100 a share, that's really not bad. Hell, my wife will spend that going to get her hair done during the week. So, oh, by the way, Mrs. Shark says hi to everybody. So yeah, 3M, great stock. And I will, I own some 3M. I'm going to be adding to my 3M position here, I believe, coming up. I just really like this company. So I don't want to oversell it to you. You can see here that they're not qualified by their cash flow per share or their earnings per share. And if we look at them from a graphical perspective, you can see here, if we connect 17 years ago, it helps if you use the arrow function, chucklehead. So 17 years ago till now, it's upward, but you can see there were some ups and downs above that. The same here with the cash flow. So, but the dividend has always gone up throughout that period, right? So overall, I like 3M, as you can tell, and it is in my portfolio. That's what, when you see the talking heads, when they say things like, I'm long in such and such, well, it just means that they own stock and they're going to hold it for a while, right? So I can sound all fancy for you if I want and say I'm long in 3M. So yeah, if you're thinking about adding something to your portfolio, you might want to take a look at 3M. And in fact, if I was making the decision, well, for my portfolio, I am not going to do Stanley Black & Decker. I'm not going to do Snap One. I'm going with adding some more 3M because I really like that 6%. I like the fact that they've just been a good long-term dividend player, good solid company. We know them, we know what they do, and I have always gone by the attitude of invest in what you know, what you understand. You don't have to be an expert in it, but at least understand how the company that you're investing in makes money, and what they're doing, so that you can be a true investor in that company and not just a trader of their stock. And I've had some young people that I mentor, and they're always after me about, why aren't you doing Bitcoin? Why aren't you doing Bitcoin? It's like, because I don't understand Bitcoin. And I don't even think the real investors understand Bitcoin. In fact, the only people that understand Bitcoin are the people that are ripping off everybody else when it comes to Bitcoin. Stocks and companies, I understand. I know how a company works. I know how companies make money. I can look at the kind of analysis that is done in these kind of in documents like investment line survey, and I can make a determination on whether or not that company is a worthwhile investment, a place for me to put my money and expect my dividends to grow. And the other thing that I do is I always set my dividends to automatically reinvest in the company because I don't need that money right now. So right now, every dollar that I have invested in 3M is buying me more 3M stocks. So every time I make some money from them, it automatically gets me more growth in them. And that's the way to get that curve going very steep on the other side, which is what you want to have in the long term. Mike says he wants to invest in board sort stocks. So board sort is a private company. So you aren't going to be able to buy stock in them necessarily, but you can talk to Chris and see if he'll sell you a few shares, right? I don't think they're paying any dividends. And I don't think that you get a discount or, an advantage that you don't already have because you're such a regular seller to them. But hey, Chris, Mike wants to have some ownership stake in your company. So, figure out what your shares are worth and let them know. Oh man. Hey, I saw an interesting news article that I want to bring to everyone's attention. Now, for those of you in the U.S., this is going to be really cool. There's a geomagnetic storm going to hit the U.S. Or hit the globe, and here's what it's going to mean for the United States. Now, for those of you that are in Europe and stuff, you're going to want to look at your news and see what they're saying as well. But here in the United States, the northern lights are expected to be visible across several U.S. states this week, Wednesday and Thursday. So they should be seen across Washington, Idaho, Vermont, Wyoming, New Hampshire, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, Massachusetts, Maryland, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, and Maine. Man, all those northern states, they're going to get a chance to actually see the northern lights, which is just really cool. So I think that for those of you that are up in those northern states, you might want to take a look at your news and see what the opportunities are to see. I was hoping I had this article. Let me see if I can find it again. So on Wednesday, the storm will be highly visible, low on the horizon from Seattle, Des Moines, Chicago, Cleveland, Boston, and Halifax. And then on Thursday, the storm gets worse, and it should be seen overhead in Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Bay City, Michigan, and on the horizon in Salem, Massachusetts, Boise, Idaho, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Lincoln, Nebraska, Indianapolis, and Annapolis, Maryland. When I was growing up in Annapolis, Maryland, I don't think we ever saw the northern lights. So this is really cool. That means it's a pretty significant storm too. So I wonder what other effects we may see as a result of it. If you folks in Europe, if you're up towards the northern climes, you should also potentially be able to see things. But again, check your news and see what might be available for you all when it comes to seeing the northern lights. Just really cool. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the northern lights before. It's really interesting when you see them. It's just such a fascinating display. So if you're going to have an opportunity to see it where you live, I would encourage you to get out and take a look. So, all right, Daniel's asking about Ryobi. Let's see, Ryobi, are you? So, Daniel, I do not I do not see Ryobi listed. So who makes Ryobi? Are they their own brand, or are they a brand of somebody else? Let's check real quick. Ryobi, Japanese company. Ryobi Power Tools and Outdoor Equipment are brands of Tektronic Industries used under license by Ryobi Limited. Is Tektronic? No. So it may be that they're not on any of the US or Toronto Stock Exchange, so they wouldn't be evaluated. Sorry, I will not be able to help you, Daniel, because they're not included on the investment survey. So I'm not going to be able to help you to understand or to get any better insights on them as a company for investment. But I do get what you're saying about investing in companies that you buy a lot of the stuff from. It makes a lot of sense, right? That's one of the reasons why I love Coca-Cola. Well, other than the fact that I like the taste of Coca-Cola, I also own stock in Coca-Cola. So when I buy Coca-Cola, I'm investing in myself. How's that? Cool, huh? You thought they're part of Home Depot. Home Depot, I know that, they sell them there, but they're at least, and I just looked really quick here, so I'll do some more research and dig into it a little bit further and see what I can come up with. If I can during the week, if I can figure out that that they're part of some other company that is being studied or discussed in the Value Line survey, I'll certainly try to throw it in next week to talk about. Until then, if you come up with anything, shoot me an email. So let's see. You think Milwaukee owns them? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to have to dig into it a bit more so I can come up with a good answer for you. All right, everybody. I had a great time this week. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Some good interchange from folks, comments, a lot of fun. Again, get out there and see those northern lights, man. That's going to be really cool. And if you are on YouTube with your autoplay enabled, then what's going to happen here is when I click the end broadcast, it's going to automatically take you over. It's called a redirect to Scrapping Irish's channel. If you do not have autoplay enabled, please go find Scrapping Irish's live stream on YouTube and come join us over there. We always have a lot of fun carrying on the banter and going in. Well, we never know what direction we're going to go in when we go over to Scrapping Irish. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you all over on Scrapping Irish's channel. Have a great week. We're out of here.